this time. When the pandemic came, I was before I was nice and peaceful at my house. My kids were going to school. My husband was still in the military. It was like me kumbayama and bringing in the money all at one time. And then them kids came home.
Everybody was in the house.
Everybody was in the house. And I have a 2,000 square foot home. Very pleased with it. At least I thought I was when it was only me there during the day. And now everybody was there. That was a pivot for me. So then I went and decided, because I still wanted my brand to win. So I went and got a 3-room suite.
Okay.
10 minutes from the home, ran my business from there. 2-year lease. The lease was up. And it was like, what am I going to do now? Do I stay there? Which I really don't need to, because in my business, I was doing Facebook Lives, which was really great. Everybody was sitting at home. I don't know where they were wearing our product to, because they couldn't go nowhere, but they were definitely buying it and I was shipping it. But they were sitting at home during the day. So I could go live during the daytime or at 2:00 in the morning, because they were at their house. They were still tuned in. Now people are back to their regular lives. They're not showing up how they were at 12:00 in the afternoon or 2:00 in the morning. So I decided to pivot and build a building in my backyard. So now my office is in my backyard.
Right.
So all those different changes, which kept my money flowing from before, during, and after, and problems, which is a problem, and solutions.
Right.
What I found is real leaders, and whatever kind of, I tell people all the time, the one leader you are responsible for, if it's not other people, is you.
Yourself.
You're responsible for leading your life. And so you have to be a problem solver if you want your brand to grow. And that's what I've learned to do in my business. And like I said, the pivot, originally Facebook Live came around about 2015, I think was the year. And I was used to doing everything I did at vending events, at home parties, at my job, at my church, owning my backyard. And then I would see people going on live for an hour or 2 hours, and I'm sitting there counting their money.
Right.
Like
running it up.
Sold. You had to pack up no product. You didn't have to go pay a vending fee. You were at the comforts of your homes. And I was like the OG in the business, like, my money good. I don't have to do that. And then I was like, oh, but they winning. So I changed that baby up real quick,
real fast,
and got into the game. And so that's another, you can't be stubborn. You can't be set in your ways. You have to be willing to move with what's going. You have to be attuned to what's going on around you. That's definitely a big thing. And that's some of what we'll be talking about and sharing with you in more depth. Not if, because you're going to. You tune into us here on Convening with the Strategy Team.
Was born. So, I don't know if anybody has ever had to rebrand something that they already had like a head start. Like Thomaston loved the first, the first brand. They fell in love with that. So we had to rebrand. I was like, okay, you know what? It kind of really put a damper in my soul. So that's one moment I was like, is this, we were still new in it. So is this something we want to keep going, or should I go back and do what I was already doing before?
So what was the thing? I know I tell people, like, go back to when you get discouraged, when you feel like throwing in a towel as an entrepreneur, when it gets too hard, because it's going to feel like it's getting too hard. I say go back to your why. Like, why did you start doing this anyway? What was the thing that made you say, you know what, we're going to keep pushing past this difficulty that we're having right now?
The fact that I had a partner. Answer, because if it was
accountability help.
And if it was me, I would have said, you know what, forget it, I'm gonna go back to what I know. But because I had somebody that could help carry the weight, it was, that part became a little easier, right? And then there's been lots of times that I've always sat back and say, okay, you know what, is this journey worth it, right? Is it worth my stress? Because I know several people that are my age who have passed away due to chasing their dreams and like stressing themselves really heavy, right? And so I always think, do I want to carry this stress and risk my life? Or, am I going to figure this out and keep going? And
so have there been any things you put in place to help with that, to help get in? So you still don't have anything in place to help with your levels of stress. So how are you not becoming like the people?
I am. That weighs on me all the time. Okay. And that's something that I have to get it figured out. That's something I'm working on, and it has to be figured out, because if not, I'm going to stress myself out. That's when people say you can stress yourself out, you literally can stress yourself out, right? And the bigger you get with the same how you operate or how I'm operating, I know it's like, okay, this is just gone. Like, I see how people can like get bald and get fat and just start just letting life take them over just because, of stress.
I appreciate your transparency, because in this day and age in social media world, we get the idea or the look, because we see the people who are business owners and entrepreneurs taking the trips, laying on the beach. I have this time freedom and the money's coming in and I'm able to drive this car and I'm able to do all these things. But people don't see or get a chance to hear the reality of the behind the scenes, that it is stressful, that we have to be cognizant and put things in place so that we don't end up being the person that, unfortunately jumps off the downtown Atlanta bridge or, does something or don't wake up the next morning. Now, I will say, as somebody who does know you and has seen your journey, that you have put some things in place, and you may not be able to see these things, but that's a good thing about having people in your life who will help you see the things you can't see. When was the last time you
picked up the phone and called your top 10 customers, or who used to be your top 10 customers? Like, literally, when have you, we get so used to this online phenomenon that we have access to. But you remember back in the day, and I don't know if you remember, but my grandmother, I used to be at my grandmother's house, and the insurance man used to come
to your door,
to her house.
Yep, that's right.
Talk to her about the insurance, collect his money, and be well on his way.
Right.
He came to the house.
And who can avoid you that way?
What?
I mean, unless you're doing them like you do the Jehovah's Witness, you might want to, not answer the door. But when it comes to your paperwork, you're not going to ignore the insurance guy, right? You're not going to, which is funny because I have an insurance agent, so I didn't just go online and pick a company and pay for it. Like, I actually went into I actually had an old person who retired, old agent, and then they handed me off to somebody new. She called me to introduce herself. Instead of my policy just changing, I had no idea. She called to introduce herself. She called me last week.
Okay.
She said, your policy is going to be up next month. We want to see if there's been any changes. Oh, there actually excuse me, has to need to drink something. There has been a change. And I said, the change was I built something in my backyard. Right. I need to have that insured. She was like, great. How much? Right. I was like, I need to have that insured. And then we talked about the value of it. What is it classified as?
Does it add value to your house?
It does add value to my home. Exactly. It does add value to my home. And then what is it classified as? So when I went to go get the permit to have it built, what did I tell the county it was? As opposed to maybe what it actually is.
Strategy.
Right. And so we had to talk about that. But that's the difference. Now, am I going to leave her? I'm going to definitely think with somebody. I've been approached by State Farms. I have an American family. So if anybody wants to go ahead and
you need a referral. Get that premium down.
Right. Exactly. They reached out to me and I'm like, I don't know are you going to offer that same customer service that I'm getting from my agent, not just a regular company?
And that's something to point out. I mean, look, this show is going to be about business and life because that's what we're doing. But the relationship that you're building with your insurance agent, your banker, like anything that is of importance, if there's a person that you can talk to, I would think that you would want to actually talk to that person versus just going online, filling out this information and letting the computer and the system and the algorithm find the best what it can feel is the best solution for you. Like you said, talking to somebody, and for your insurance agent to know, hey, I need to pick up the phone. She probably got a few extra $100.
I get birthday calls.
You get a call, not an email?
I get a call. I got personalized
the card
stamps. Not stamps, but the labels. Labels that has my name on it and my address. From my insurance agent. And she doesn't do it all. This is delegating. She has 2 people who work in her office. I know the lady's voice. Her assistant, I know her voice when she calls me. All right. Hey, she's always happy. Hey, Christy, we're friends.
Yes.
She calls me like that. And here's the thing, I think the point that you made is, don't you want to? Here's the strategy. You don't even have to want to. If you are in business, these are things that you have to do. These are the income producing activities.
Counseling sessions. I had it was a counselor pretty much. And this was, back, I guess, when I was really trying to figure out what my purpose should be in life and all this. And I was kind of really getting down on myself. I would go to work, I come home, that's pretty much all I'm doing. Like, I need some help, right? And so I went through a few sessions, and then I quickly realized it's like, I don't necessarily need a counselor. I didn't need somebody to, to get me out of the rut. I just needed to know like a direction. Mm-hmm. I just needed to know some steps to take, and then I've always been competitive. I've always been, my own inspiration, my own motivation. So I just needed, again, the steps. And once I got the steps, I never looked back.
Yeah.
And I've gone through several businesses now. I've built several businesses. And luckily, and finally, Car Hops is the one that actually I was able to stick with and I'm able to see through. But like I said, as far as me getting started and moving myself in the right direction, I didn't need help with the motivation or the how. I needed that. I needed the how. I didn't need the why.
Right. And something I found, because people, I actually like detest the word motivation. I really do. Like, how do I motivate my team, or how do I stay motivated? And I'm like, you don't need motivation when it becomes a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. When waking up every day and pursuing and going after what you desire, your goals, it's a lifestyle. Like, I don't wake up every day and say, you need to get up and you like, of course you talk to yourself and speak positivity and like things like that. But it's my lifestyle. I don't think twice. Like, I automatically just go into building my brand. I go into I don't mean like it's marketing. I just do it. Right. It's like, I don't know any other way, but it's actually a habit I created early on. Like how people wake up and brush their teeth. Mm-hmm. Like I wake up and make my morning post. Mm-hmm. And I know by lunchtime there's something to reply to. Like it's just funny. Something that happens.
I asked you this the other day. I was like, I literally thought you used like a scheduling tool or whatever. But again, you have to know what works for you, right? So even when it comes to providing strategy, you still have to know what works for you. So if the strategy is post one particular piece of content per day, some people may need to schedule that thing out, right? Or some people, like you, can wake up and do it every day. You just really, as long as it get done, is the end goal, pretty much.
Right.
As long as it gets done, and as long as you're not stressed out about it, I feel like it just has to get done.
I think some of the things that we've mastered is knowing who we are.
Right.
Knowing ourselves. And people will come to us and they want us to give them the answers of who they are. Mm-hmm. And the first thing is, who are you? Yes. Like knowing you are. And that's some of the things that we're going to be talking about. What do you need to do? That's why listening to this, and I may say, well, text messages are going to work for me. My people are going to do the same thing. And somebody who's listening, that may not work for your market, where it may or may not work for yours, where email may not work. But I know I jumped in on that one.
No, because I was going to say, so like I said, the biggest things for us is to collect emails, phone numbers for text, and we need you to download our app, because with the push notifications, one, it costs me to email you, it costs me to text you, but it does not cost me to push a notification to your app. So those are the top three things. And I feel like, when you're looking at your market, you need to figure out what is it that you immediately want from them. So like you said, you collect emails and phone numbers. Again, I collect email, phone numbers, and then I want you to download the app. I push you to that next step. But when you do that, you got the information, you got to make sure that you do something with it.
Yes.
And the easiest thing, and I know we're going to talk about this in another show, but the easiest thing to do is to at least set up the first 3 emails automated.
Right.
Because at least once you put them back into your system now, again, so it does take time for you to enter these contacts from either the QR system, code system that you're using, or the manual, written. You're going to have to enter it into your email platform and your text messaging platform. But once you do, and you already have it automated, the first part of the first 3 steps are done. Right. So they're going to hear from you. They're going to be reminded. They're going to, remember you at least for those first 3 times. Now, I also will say too, we're all in this day and age. We're all about building our foundation on somebody else's platforms, right? So that's why it's great to have 100,000 or 1 million followers on Instagram. And I've actually worked with a few clients that's what they glorified the fact that they had all of these people, but then the very next year, it was snatched from them. Now you can get verified on Instagram, so it's a little harder. It should, we don't know, but it should be a little harder for somebody to hack your account. Facebook,
it's paid, so it used to be.
Do you have to pay for both Instagram and Facebook?
I don't know. I haven't done it
Come
yet.
on, Meta.
I haven't done that. It used to be a verification thing where it was free, but now for Facebook, you can get a blue check and pay for it as a monthly thing. Which
a monthly subscription?
Listen. If Facebook is your moneymaker,
yes,
and it's bringing you lots of money,
right,
and you don't want to risk, because I've had people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars on Facebook lose their page for whatever, the whole account going, they had to start over from scratch, and they make hundreds, when I'm saying hundreds of thousands of dollars just from their time being on Facebook sharing their product, and to start all over, like first she had to go through a time period of like, oh my God, what am I gonna?
I don't know what am I
gonna do? Well, for her, it'd be so worth paying $15 a month. I don't even know how much it
whatever it is,
but if it's $15 a month, it's worth her paying $15 a month to secure not losing her Facebook page over something like that when it brings her in hundreds of thousands of dollars at on a time.
But
period.
I also hope that this person has an email list
and she did.
Well, I was going to say because. I remember when I had my first clothing store, I was marketing on MySpace.
Right, and aging yourself, baby.
Welcome to the 40/40 Club, ladies. So I was building my business and marketing my products. I had a brick and mortar store, but then I also wanted to show people to get them into the store. I would put pictures and sales and stuff on there, and I go back to that MySpace page now because I still have access to it. I was Brown Sugar. What's my name? So I still go back to that page, but I often think, when will something else come and replace the Facebook or the Instagram or the, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to think.
Does Periscope still exist? Periscope used to be a thing.
Yeah, no, and I was never on Periscope.
I wasn't either, but
it was a thing, right? And they blew up off of that.
Yeah.
So. One thing that I think you will always have access to is emails. Again, I think, phone numbers, change and stuff, but you'll still be able to contact them until it does. So I always just urge people to, yes, of course, keep building your brand on those platforms because that is super dope, but also kind of bring it back to something that you will always be able to have. Because again, to the point, let's just say something happens, I have 100,000 followers on my Facebook or on my Instagram and something happens. But if I have 50,000 people on my email list, I can email them and say, "Hey, look,
find me here. This is where I'm at.
This is what happened," and then at least you can get a percentage of those people to come back and follow you, on those various platforms. So I always just say, yes, keep doing what you're doing, but making sure that you have something that you're going to have that is yours. Right.
I like how you talked about the app. Because I was thinking, when you were saying your customers may change their telephone numbers, the one thing that we do know is when they change their telephone numbers, when they get a new phone, that phone breaks, the first thing you do is go download all the apps. Right. They download all them apps. So if your app was one of them that was on there, that app is going to be added back to the new number, to the new phone carrier, to the new cell phone. So that's definitely a great way to fix the issue that you saw was like their numbers are changed. I still need to be able to reach these people.
And you got to think about it too. You're really not annoyed if you get push notifications. Like we're so used to them now. We look at them real quick and we're swiping down.
Right.
Or and it's so funny because with push notifications, you can't necessarily touch it and it goes to something.
Right.
So like when you swipe it down, it's over. It's done. But people do get annoyed and want to be taken off of your text message marketing list and your email marketing list. So if you're in an industry that you can, and everything can have an app now, so really you can be in an industry, but if you're in an industry where an app would serve your audience, I definitely say, especially because it's not as expensive as it used to be.
Right.
And there's different ways that you can do it really affordable. Just starting out, go ahead and do that because again, you can offer your community of people something different than just the random person on the street. So
I'm just going to add one thing and then I'll let you give some last moments and then we can wrap this one up because we definitely got some more points to go on for the automation part, which is really key. I definitely want to talk about that some more.
And I do want to talk about this. So 9 times out of 10, when people come to me and they say that they're stressed, right? 9 times out of 10, it's a money issue. It's the fact that either they're stressed or they're not happy, right? It's the fact that they don't have enough resources to make them feel comfortable in life, right? And so that's another way I feel like people can fall out of love with their business if it's not bringing in the money that they were expecting. So, with me, I always look, okay, well, one, have you identified what type of company you are? Are you going to be the Walmart brand where you are going to sell a lower price product, but you need to sell a lot more of them?
Right.
Or are you going to be the, I don't know, Whole Foods or Target or something that's, Macy's brand where you can sell higher priced products and you just don't have to sell as many, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of people kind of get in I don't know if people do enough research to figure out the competitors and what's going to set them apart from their competitors and what's going to where their price point is going to be, what type of company they're going to be, right? So like I said, when people come to me and they start talking about they're stressed or they're not happy, the first thing I think about is how are those pockets?
Right. Yeah.
And because if I could give you another few $1,000s a month or whatever, you're going to be happy. Right. Again, when people were getting these resources from the government and all, they were the happiest people alive.
That was extra. Well, the average person, I was listening, listening to a podcast, and he was saying that the difference between losing people's homes and not to foreclosure was $500 a month.
$500 a month.
$500 a month. And the average person literally just needs an extra $500 a month, which has changed like the goal for my team. Our talks from now on is like we're going to have a club of 500 and we're going to celebrate 500 because in my thought process, if you make a 500, it's easy to double that to make 1,000 if that's your goal. Right. And it's easy to triple that to make 50. But you have to start with hitting a mark and then you look at like, well, either am I going to double my time or am I going to double my money towards it? Because it's literally two things. You're either going to have to take time. If people want to make extra money, you're either going to have to take time to do it or you're going to put money towards it. Absolutely. And if you don't have the money towards building it, then you have to find the time. It's either one or two things. Right. So for me, if I want to spend more time on building this podcast, then I have to let go of some other things, right? And letting go of some other things doesn't mean physically or literally mean it doesn't get done, but I need to allocate some money for someone else to do it. Right. And if I don't have the money to allocate, then it has to be my time that goes toward. It's one or the other. And so I either need to earmark or set out that a certain percentage of what I bring in is going to go towards paying for, like I have my 16-year-old right now who's working. I had her do one thing. She posts on my social media. She schedule it. I've made her an admin on the page. She posts on it. She did that for a while. And it was funny because her thought process, when I said she's going to make $10 an hour, it was that she needed to fill that hour with things, even though I hadn't given her an hour worth of things to do. It was just a miscommunication. So in her thought process, if I had given her an assignment, which is to post one thing every day, and it only took her 10 minutes, then she was filling in the other 50 minutes to get to the hour. And I was like, no, that's not how that works. Right. If you only work 10 minutes, then that's $10 an hour divided by the 10 minutes you get, and that's what you're paid for. Oh, wow. I was like, I don't pay you just to fill up time. Baby. I don't just pay you. Now, I said, eventually you will get a full hour's worth of work, but you've never worked for anybody before. So I can't say I'm going to give you $10 an hour based on no work experience. Right. So I'm giving you a small project. You do that successfully, I'll add something else to it. Right. And then once you do that successfully, which may be a 20-minute thing to do, now you've worked your way up to making 30 minutes of the hour, so you've made $5 in that hour, right? And then I'll add on to it. So she's doing that. Now, I've earmarked a certain amount of money. Well, the government literally has earmarked a certain amount of money because I can pay her a certain amount per year as an employee as a write-off. So I have said that this the max amount of hours she can get is this because that would put me at the yearly amount per child. I got two 16-year-olds, so I can make that work for me. Yeah, know them tax laws, babies, and use them to your advantage. The man and everybody else you know who is working the system and not paying all the taxes knows how to do it. That's my win. All right, I have two 16-year-olds. So I know how much money that I can pay them and write it off. Right. But that is the thing. It's either time or it's money.
Either or.
And you got to let go of one of them. Right. You got to let go of one of them.
But either way it go, though, when you do, because energy is one of those things that it's just going to it's always going to be in circulation, right? It's just always going to be moving. So either way it go, you're always going to win, but again, you have to know which one you're going to play with.
Yeah, so. And the time frame in which you want it done. Because 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 I'm married, because I have 2 teenagers and a toddler, which is a different makeup from what you have at your house, right? I have one that's in sports majorly, so that takes up different time. So I could possibly get something done. We might have the same goal. I could probably get it done in 3 years. Whereas you might be able to knock it out in 6 months. And it's just the allocation of things in our life. It doesn't mean that we can't both be successful. We just have to be realistic about what our time and our money allows. Right. Like there's people who will do a podcast and they need to start in their room. We have the ability to earmark a certain amount of money to come and pay for somebody to already have this, already have it set up. Right. And so we don't have to spend 10 hours on a podcast. We can really come and knock out 2 in 2 hours, where somebody else is going to have to take the time to
learn the equipment.
Learn the equipment. We didn't have to learn the equipment, right?
Don't even want to learn.
So then you can't compare our progress to your progress because we have different starting points. But our starting point really for us to get here now and do this quicker was because we've already spent 11 years in my business.
Right. And, even with me, I've actually started other podcasts. But again, the reason why I fell out of love with wanting to do those podcasts is because I didn't have a team of people. I had